Hi, I just love that tag that says it's Church at 434 in Motion, don't you? I mean, you got to hear that and see that, and the music's is there. So now you're expecting to get the latest release of what is going to be the next show for the Church at 434 in Motion. You're getting ready to enter a special series. This is an intro that we're creating just for the church release. We're getting ready to talk about the fear virus. And so there's a series of episodes that are coming up where we're going to talk about fear. These were created as a resource for Face the Fear, but we wanted to release them for you as well because you sometimes have to deal with fear, and there are other people out there that you know that have to deal with fear. And so we're getting ready to enter to what is a series of back-to-back releases that will come out on our regular release days that talk all about fear. And so we wanted you to know that. And so each day on the church release, on the Church 434 in Motion, you're going to hear this all over again. It's not a rerun. It's just me giving you the tag to let you know that as soon as I'm quiet, there's going to be a brand new screen that comes up to give you the title of the new episode, and we want you to enjoy it, and hopefully it's a great resource that will help you deal with the virus of fear in your own life, as well as helping others in their life. Okay, that's it. I'm done talking. Let's get on with the new episode. Hi, welcome back to another episode of the Fear Virus. In this particular episode, we're going to talk about learning to see things differently. We read you a passage of Scripture, and it is a setting where Jesus is changed in front of his disciples, and some interesting things begin to happen. I want to tell you another story. It has nothing to do with it, but everything to do with it. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, they go on a camping trip. As they laid down for the night, Holmes said, "Watson, look up into the sky and tell me what you see." And Dr. Watson replied, "Well, Holmes, I see millions of stars." And Holmes queried, "Well, what does that tell you?" Watson explained, "Astronomically, it tells me that there are millions of galaxies and potentially billions of planets. And theologically, it tells me that God is great and we are small and insignificant. Meteorologically, I'll have to get that right, that's weather, right? It tells us that we're going to have a beautiful day tomorrow. What does it tell you when you look at the sky?" And Sherlock Holmes smiled and said, "My dear Watson, it's elementary. When I lay here and look up at the nighttime sky, it tells me that someone stole our tent." Because his perspective was so radically different. He saw things differently. One of the things that we have to do if we're going to have a holy terror in our life is learn to see things differently and learn to see the things that scare us differently. The passage I read in an earlier episode, I want to go back to in verse 2. It says, "There he was transfigured before them." This is Jesus. "His face shone and became bright like the sun. His clothes became as white as the light." So as Jesus is praying, he physically changes in front of three of his best friends. Light spilled out of him. It was explosive. It was brilliant. In a flash, Peter, James, and John felt like they were mosquitoes on the shadow of an eagle. I mean, walking on water, multiply bread, speak to the wind, banish demons, raise the dead. Yeah, he did all those things. But Jesus was just getting warmed up because this is something that they had never seen before. And then Moses and Elijah appeared with him. And so now you've got Moses, Elijah, and Jesus all standing in front of them. This is the Washington and Lincoln of the Hebrew Jewish people. It's the Hebrew Hall of Fame right there. And they had gone up on the mountain thinking they were just going up to pray. But now they were seeing what was, in essence, a side of Jesus that they had never seen before. They were seeing him in kind of all of his glory for the first time, if you will. That's an interesting thing because a lot of people in the world that we live in talk about God. Some people believe in God. Some people have a faith in God, and they really think that God can do anything he wants to do. They'll give God that. But they're also convinced that God isn't going to do anything for them. Or, and something we don't talk about a lot, is we never think that God's going to do anything that doesn't live up to our expectations of God. In other words, we're back to putting God in the box. In this moment, Jesus steps out of the box, and they're forced to see things differently and see things in a way they never have before. That's the first thing that happens to you if you want to have a healthy terror. You have to be willing to let Jesus step in so you can see things differently. Because when he's in the mix of your life, when he shows up in your life, your perspective begins to change. One of the things that happens when we get afraid, we become so laser focused on the thing that is scaring us that we leave no room to see anything else. And for you to handle your fear effectively, for you to handle your fear in a way that's going to make it manageable, to have a healthy terror, and it doesn't mean that it's taking away the thing that makes you afraid, but it does mean that you're going to look at it differently and you're going to allow Jesus to be a part of it. Because once he shows up, you begin to see him and see the things that scare you differently. For those that were close to Jesus, this was a life-shaping moment. They would always see things differently from here on out. Even though they were still going to make mistakes, they were still going to screw up, and they were still going to have all sorts of struggles, but they would never forget this moment. And for you to deal with terror in a healthy way and to make it a healthy terror, you have to learn to see things differently, and you have to learn to see them through the lens that God gives you, and that only happens through Jesus. We're going to come back and we're going to continue this conversation on fear virus next time. But learn today to see things differently.